Welcome back to patreon.com/slash the Derrick Lamon Experience, your one-stop shop for your college football news. We are creeping ever so closer to week 0 and the official start of college football season. As you can see, the college football content creators are all over YouTube. The podcasts are starting to gain more traction. We've been hearing a lot about this UNC to the SEC conversation, and I always wondered, like, well, what does UNC bring to the? Because when I think SEC, I think football first. I don't think of the SEC as a basketball conference. When I think basketball conferences, I think the Big Ten is equally as good in football as it is in basketball. When I think of a pure basketball conference, I think of the Big East, and they don't play football. There's no Big East football anymore. When I think of a pure basketball conference, I think of the ACC, Duke, North Carolina, the Tobacco Road rivalry, NC State, Virginia, Miami's getting better, stuff like that. So I was like, what the fuck does the SEC want with UNC? Well, they have a very big sponsorship with Jordan Brand. Michael Jordan was literally the man at UNC, right? They would bring in the Carolina television region, so they want that. And then also, because UNC is a blue blood of college basketball, they would strengthen the SEC in basketball play, men's Division I, and actually women's Division I as well, too. So at this point, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. It's not happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. We're not going to get any announcement. But at some point, before Bill Belichick steps away from that program, because remember, he's in his 70s, UNC is going to go to the SEC. At that point, Florida State and Clemson, more than likely, from what I've heard, are going to go to the Big Ten. And then those smaller schools are going to get broken up, probably to the Big 12. Now, from my understanding, the SEC would also take Duke, because then that would also strengthen them even more as far as a college basketball super conference at that point. Well, not super conference. It would make them a much bigger, because you have 3 blue bloods in one conference. You would then have the University of Kentucky, you'd have Duke, and you have North Carolina. The ACC tournament, once we're getting closer and closer to the big tourney to March Madness, the ACC tournament is, must-see college basketball. Imagine the SEC being able to bolster UNC, Duke, and Kentucky. 3 college basketball blue bloods. Then the SEC truly might, like, the conversation between what's better, the SEC or the Big Ten, it's apples and oranges at that point, because the Big Ten is right now equally good at football and basketball. The SEC is a football conference, make no mistake about it. If you add Duke and North Carolina, it then becomes pretty goddamn good at football and basketball. With that, all the conference realignments got me feeling a bit nostalgic, and I miss the conferences of old. I'm obviously from St. Louis, Missouri, and the closest big school to me is in Columbia, Missouri, MIZZOU. I'm a big Mizzou guy, Tiger, a true son, if you will. So I'm used to Big 8 football, which became the Big 12, and then everything went to shit. So we're going to take a little bit of a look back at previous conferences starting in 1978. The ACC, Clemson, Duke, Maryland, North Carolina, NC State, Virginia, and Wake Forest. Pretty much, they're all still there. They are all still there with some additions like Syracuse and stuff like that. There was the Big 8, which I just mentioned. Colorado, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State. Nebraska left. Mizzou left for the SEC. Colorado left for the Pac-12 and came back. Oklahoma has gone to the SEC. So we don't have Bedlam anymore. So it's like, I miss these old traditional rivalries where college sports and their conferences were truly regional. These are the closest schools to you. You guys are now a conference. Let them do what they do over there. Let them do what they do up there. Let them do what they do over there. And let them do what they do down there. It's a region thing. TV, money, change that. The Big Ten, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Northwestern, Purdue, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. This is before Penn State. Penn State joined in my lifetime, like in the 90s, if I remember correctly. Then there was the Ivy League, Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Penn, Princeton, and Yale. All phenomenal fucking schools. For, academia, nobody beats those schools. As far as major college sports, other than Princeton and basketball, Nobody cares about the Ivy League schools. Not when it comes to revenue sports. And when we're talking about revenue sports and college sports, we're talking college basketball and college football. And that means obviously there's only men's football. Women's D1 basketball is also a revenue sport. It pays those college football and college basketball pays for your baseballs, your softballs, your swim teams, this, that, and the third. The reason you have these massive performance centers and training facilities and weight rooms and stuff like that on these college campuses are because of your University of Texas and your University of Oklahoma and Ohio State University and the University of Michigan and the Duke men's basketball team and the UNC men's basketball team and Florida State football. All those schools, all the other programs run off of major college football and major college basketball. Why? Because they have the better TV contracts. Their conferences dole out more money, and it filters down to the rest of the programs there at the schools. The MAC. I didn't realize the MAC was as old as it is. Ball State, Bowling Green, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois, Ohio, Toledo, and Western Michigan. You would think that but see, these are still in college basketball. They would be considered mid-majors. These are G5 schools, group of 5 schools. They have not ascended to the level. We had the Missouri Valley, Drake, Indiana State, New Mexico State, Southern Illinois, Tulsa, West Texas State, and Wichita State. Wichita State's basketball program got pretty good over the last couple of years. This is 1978, so that Indiana State team, the Sycamores, Larry Bird would have been on that team if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe he was at Indiana. I don't know. Pacific Coast, Cal State Fullerton, Fresno State, Long Beach State, University of Pacific, San Jose State, and Utah State. Then there's the former Conference of Champions, the Pac-10, Arizona, Arizona State, California, Oregon, Oregon State, Stanford, UCLA, USC, Washington, Washington State. The SEC, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. The class of the South. Southern, Appalachian State, Chattanooga, Furman, Marshall, the Citadel, VMI, and Western Carolina. Southland, Arkansas State, Lamar, Louisiana Tech, McNeese State, Southwestern Louisiana, and Texas Arlington. The Southwest Conference, a defunct conference. And when this conference ceased to exist, some of them went to the Big 8 and they created the Big 12, and some of these schools ended up in the SEC. The Southwest was Arkansas, which then, when the conference went defunct, went to the SEC. Baylor went to the Big 8 and formed the Big 12. Houston, they were a G5 school for quite some time. They're now a member of the Big 12. Rice, I can't remember what conference Rice is in. They're still playing. TCU, Big 12. Texas went to the Big 12 and then went to the SEC. Texas A&M went to the Big 12 and then went to the SEC. Texas Tech went to the Big 12. The WAC, BYU, Colorado, New Mexico, San Diego State, Utah, UTEP, and Wyoming. BYU was an independent for a while. And the independents, this is 1978, Air Force, Army, Boston College, Cincinnati, Colgate, East Carolina, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Hawaii, Holy Cross, Illinois State, Louisville, Memphis State, Miami, Navy, North Texas State, Northeast Louisiana, Notre Dame, Penn State, Pittsburgh, Richmond, Rutgers, South Carolina, Southern Miss, Syracuse, Temple, Tulane, UNLV, Villanova, Virginia Tech, West Virginia, and William and Mary. Notre Dame, still the most prominent of the independents at this point. Penn State, of course, eventually joined the Big Ten. Notre Dame plays an ACC football schedule, by the way, and I believe they're part of the ACC for basketball. Or maybe that was just for the pandemic. I don't remember. Hawaii is part of the WAC at this point. I'm pretty sure. Air Force, still independent. Army, I forget where Army is now. Miami being an independent made sense. They were called the Harvard of the South. Memphis State is now the University of Memphis, and they're still fighting to get into one of the power conferences. Louisville is a member of the ACC. After, at one point, they were a member of the Big East. Georgia Tech is an ACC school. There's conversation about Georgia Tech maybe also joining the SEC because they've already made rival right there in the University of Georgia. Rutgers, Big Ten school at one point was a Big East school. The Big Ten stretches from Piscataway, New Jersey, where the Rutgers campus is, all the way to the University of Washington. The entire top half of the United States is Big Ten country. That's crazy. That's crazy. South Carolina was an independent. Now they're a member of the SEC. Tulane was a football power. That changed. UNLV, not a huge football school, but a great basketball school. Syracuse joined the Big Ten. Remember, they built the Carrier Dome in the 70s, and then they joined the Big Ten. So 1979, East Tennessee moved from the Ohio Valley in 1AA to Southern Conference. Hawaii ended its independence and joined the WAC. Air Force ended its independence and joined the WAC. That was in 1980. In 81, Illinois State ended its independence and joined the Missouri Valley. Villanova dropped its football program. The Ivy League, Southern Conference, and Southland Conference dropped to the 1AA level. Southwestern Louisiana left the Southland to remain in 1AA as an independent. Most of the Missouri Valley schools are upgraded to 1AA. Drake, Illinois State, Indiana State, Southern Illinois, West Texas State. Several 1A independents also dropped to 1AA. Colgate, Holy Cross, Northeast Louisiana, North Texas State, Richmond, and William & Mary. UNLV in 1982 also joined the Pacific Coast. 1983, Georgia Tech, already a member of the ACC and all other sports, ended its football independence to become a full member of the ACC. 1984, New Mexico State left the Missouri Valley Conference to join the Pacific Coast Conference. 1986, Missouri Valley ended its hybrid league of both 1AA and 1A programs. Tulsa and Wichita State left the conference to be 1A independent. Northern Illinois left the MAC to become independent. 1987, Akron left the Ohio Valley 1AA to become 1A independent, which Wichita State dropped its program. 1988, Pacific Coast Athletic Association changed its name to the Big West Conference. 89, Louisiana Tech upgraded from a 1AA to independent to a 1A independent. 91, the Big East began sponsoring football, ending independence for Boston College, Miami, Pittsburgh, Rutgers, Syracuse, Temple, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia. 1992, after joining in all of the sports the year before, Florida State ended its independence and joined the ACC. The SEC expanded with 2 programs, Arkansas from the Southwest and formerly independent South Carolina. The Big West lost 2 programs. Fresno State joined the WAC, and Long Beach State dropped its program. Nevada left the Big Sky, 1AA, to join the Big West. Akron ended its independence and joined the MAC. Arkansas State upgraded from 1AA to 1A, remaining an independent. 93, the Big West lost Cal State Fullerton, who dropped their program, but added 4 independents: Arkansas State, Louisiana Tech, Northern Illinois, and Southwestern Louisiana. In 1993, Penn State ended its independence and joined the Big Ten. And that's when the Big Ten had 11 schools. And at that point, until they added more schools later on, the number 11 was hidden in their logo. It said Big Ten, but the way the T was structured, they kind of cut into the T to form a 1 on each side. And that 11th team was Penn State. I prefer the old Big Ten logo over the current one. The current one is it's big. And the G is also supposed to be a 0, I guess. I don't know. 94, Northeast Louisiana left the Southland 1AA to become a 1A independent. 95, North Texas left the Southland 1AA to become a 1A independent. 96, the Big 12 began its first season after merging the Big 8 with 4 members of the former Southwest Conference: Baylor, Texas Tech, Texas A&M, and Texas. Conference USA began its first season after merging 2 previously non-football conferences, the Metro Conference and the Great Midwest Conference. This new league included former Southwest member Houston and 5 former independents: Cincinnati, Louisville, Memphis, Southern Miss, and Tulane. That was the best era of Conference USA football, in my opinion. When they had Cincinnati and Louisville, Louisville eventually ended up joining the Big East and then went to the ACC. Cincinnati went, I think, from Conference US. Oh, the American Athletic Conference. I forgot about that. That's in here somewhere, I would imagine. The WAC added former Southwest members Rice, SMU, and TCU, while also taking San Jose State and UNLV from the Big West. Tulsa ended its independence and joined the WAC. The Big West lost Arkansas State, Louisiana Tech, Northern Illinois, Southwestern Louisiana, all of whom became 1A independent programs. The league added Boise State, 1AA Big Sky, Idaho, 1AA Big Sky, and Northern Texas, 1A independent. UAB and UCF upgraded from 1AA independent to become 1A independent. Pacific, Big West dropped its football program. 97, the MAC added Marshall, 1AA Southern, and Northern Illinois, 1A independent. East Carolina ended its independence and joined Conference USA. 98, Army ended more than 100 years of independence to join Conference USA. 99, 8 former members of the WAC formed the Mountain West Conference: Air Force, BYU, Colorado State, New Mexico, San Diego State, UNLV, Utah, and Wyoming. Arkansas State ended its independence and joined the Big West. UAB ended its independence to join Conference USA. 2 schools move up from 1AA to 1A: Middle Tennessee from the Ohio Valley to independence, and Buffalo from independence to the MAC. 2000, Nevada left the Big West to join the MAC. 2 programs upgraded from 1AA independent to 1A independent: UConn and South Florida. 2001, I don't know if he was on that team, but Aaron Hernandez went to the University of UConn. Just so, actually, I'm sorry. His brother went to UConn. Aaron Hernandez played at Florida. 2001, Big West stopped sponsoring football. As such, its remaining football playing members departed for the WAC: Boise State, the Sun Belt, Arkansas State, New Mexico State, North Texas, or Independence, Utah State. Sun Belt began sponsoring football with the addition of former Big West programs. Idaho joined the league as a football-only member. Louisiana Lafayette, Louisiana Monroe, and Middle Tennessee ended their independence to join the Sun Belt. The WAC lost TCU to Conference USA, but added formerly independent Louisiana Tech. Troy State upgraded from 1AA independent to 1A independent. 2002, UCF ended its independence to join the MAC. 2003, South Florida ended its independence to join Conference USA. Utah State ended its independence to join the Sun Belt. 2004, the Big East lost Miami and Virginia Tech to the ACC and added formerly independent UConn. Troy State ended its independence and joined the Sun Belt. Florida Atlantic and Florida International upgraded from 1AA independent to 1A independent. Temple expelled from the Big East, and Army left Conference USA. Both became independent. The Big East also lost Boston College to the ACC and added Cincinnati, Louisville, and South Florida from Conference USA. TCU left Conference USA to join the Mountain West. Conference USA added Marshall and UCF from the MAC, and Rice, SMU, Tulsa, and UTEP from the WAC. The WAC added Idaho, New Mexico State, and Utah State from the Sun Belt Conference. The Sun Belt added former independents Florida Atlantic and Florida International. 2006, this is noteworthy. The NCAA changed classification from 1A and 1AA to FBS and FCS. FBS meaning Football Bowl Subdivision, FCS meaning Football Championship Subdivision. They played an actual tournament in the FCS, whereas in FBS, we had the BCS and now the College Football Playoff. 2007, Temple ended its independence to join the MAC. 2008, Western Kentucky upgraded from FCS independent to FBS independent. 2009, Western Kentucky ended its independence and joined the Sun Belt. 2011, the Pac-10 becomes the Pac-12 with the additions of Colorado from the Big 12 and Utah from the Mountain West. The Big 12 also loses Nebraska to the Big 10. The Mountain West also loses BYU, who becomes an FBS independent. Boise State leaves the WAC to join the Mountain West. 2012, the Big 12 loses Missouri and Texas A&M to the SEC, adds TCU from the Mountain West and West Virginia from the Big East. The Mountain West adds former WAC programs Fresno State, Hawaii, and Nevada. The Big East adds Temple from the MAC. The MAC adds former Colonial FCS member UMass. The WAC adds former FCS programs Texas State, Southland, and UTSA independent. South Alabama ends its FCS independence to join the Sun Belt. 2013, the Big East loses Pittsburgh and Syracuse to the ACC. With those losses, the league experienced a split between its FBS and non-FBS schools. Remember, they no longer play football in the Big East. After the Catholic Seven took the Big East name, the remaining schools were reorganized as the American, along with members Cincinnati, Louisville, Rutgers, South Florida, Temple, and UConn, the American Athletic Conference. It's just the American now, I think. Also added former Conference USA programs Houston, Memphis, SMU, and UCF. Conference USA added former Sun Belt members Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Middle Tennessee, and North Texas, as well as former WAC members Louisiana Tech and UTSA. The WAC discontinued sponsoring football. Idaho and New Mexico State became FBS independent. San Jose State and Utah State both joined the Mountain West. Texas State joined the Sun Belt. Georgia State upgraded from the Colonial, the FCS, to the Sun Belt. 2014, the Big Ten added Maryland from the ACC and Rutgers from the American. The ACC added Louisville from the American. The American added former Conference USA members East Carolina, Tulane, and Tulsa. Conference USA added Old Dominion, FCS Independent, and Western Kentucky to the Sun Belt from the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt added Appalachian State, who, if you remember, App State, to kick off that crazy 2007 season, App State went into the Big House and beat Michigan to open the season. And that, of course, that season ended pretty bad for Michigan, started a downturn for them. That was Lloyd Carr's last season. There was the conversation about bringing in Les Miles, who was having pretty good years at LSU at this point. But they ended up opting for Rich Rodriguez from West Virginia. He and his family received death threats from West Virginia Mountaineer fans. It was a whole fucking disaster. He was bringing the spread offense to Michigan, which in the Big Ten was unheard of at that point. You run the fucking ball because you play up north in the winter. But the spread is all over college football. After Rich Rodriguez was not the first, but he was one of the more prominent coaches who ran the spread offense, and it captivated college football. It became all about speed and no huddle offenses and stuff like that. Where are we at? Again, Sunbelt added App State, Georgia Southern from the Southern Conference, FCS, Idaho and New Mexico State ended their independence to join the Sunbelt. 2015, Charlotte ended its FCS independence to join Conference USA. Navy ended its independence to join the American. UAB, Conference USA, shut down its football program. 2016, UMass left the MAC to become an independent. 2017, UAB restarted its football program in Conference USA. So we took a year off. Coastal Carolina, Coastal Carolina upgraded from FCS independent to the Sun Belt. 2018, the Sun Belt lost Idaho from the FCS to the FCS Big Sky. New Mexico State to be an independent. Liberty upgraded from the Big South FCS to become an FBS independent. 2020, Notre Dame joined the ACC for COVID-19 pandemic altered season. I remember that very well. UConn left the American to become an independent. And I don't know why, because again, nobody really watches UConn football other than UConn students. 2021, Notre Dame returned to independence. 2022, Sunbelt added Marshall, Old Dominion, Southern Miss from Conference USA, and James Madison from the Colonial. 2023, the Big 12 added programs Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, as well as independent BYU. The American added Conference USA programs Charlotte, Florida Atlantic, North Texas, Rice, UAB, and UTSA. Conference USA added FCS programs Jacksonville State, Sam Houston from the WAC, as well as Independence, Liberty, and New Mexico State. 2024, Oklahoma and Texas abandoned the Big 12 for the SEC. Pac-12 hemorrhage member schools with Oregon, UCLA, USC, and Washington off to the Big 10. Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah to the Big 12. And Cal and Stanford joining the ACC. Remaining schools, Oregon State and Washington State, made a scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. The ACC also picked up SMU from the American. Army ended its independence and joined the American. Conference USA added former FCS independent Kennesaw State. 2025, Conference USA adds former FCS program Delaware from the Coastal, Missouri State from the Missouri Valley. UMass ends its independence to rejoin the MAC. In 2026, the Pac-12 will rebuild with 5 former Mountain West programs: Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State. The league also adds Texas State from the Sun Belt. The Pac-10 or Pac-12, whatever the fuck, should have contacted Boise State a little earlier. Boise State should have got a call. They had built themselves into a darling. All they needed was a power conference. However, Boise State's in Idaho, and it's not a great television market, and that's why television market, population, all that stuff matters. But if the end result is you getting Boise State regardless, the determining factor, though, is the member schools of a conference have to vote on acceptance for a new school. So would UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington, would those schools that voted Boise State into the Pac-10, more than likely that's a no. It's a no. Mountain West adds Northern Illinois from the MAC and UTEP from Conference USA. The American has Army, Charlotte, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, Navy, North Texas, Rice, South Florida, Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, UAB, and UTSA. As of 2026, the ACC, Boston College, Cal, Clemson, Duke, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, North Carolina, NC State, Pittsburgh, Stanford, SMU, Syracuse, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. Keep in mind that Stanford is in Palo Alto, California, and Cal is in Berkeley, California. There are two members of the ACC, which stands for Atlantic Athletic Conference, that are in the state of California. The travel on those students alone. And remember, football, major college football, and major college basketball, those are the revenue sports. So they are flying on private chartered planes. The other students, your baseball, your softball, volleyball, those are the kids that are suffering. They're flying commercial flights. They're on there with dogs and crying babies and everything else you can think of that's on the same flight as you and coach. That's a disparaging difference right there. The Big 12 in 2026 will have Arizona, Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, Cincinnati, Colorado, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Texas Tech, UCF, Utah, and West Virginia. The Big 10 will boast Illinois, Indiana. There's nothing like Big 10 football at the University of Illinois on a Friday night. I was there the week that Dick Puckett died. My aunt lives in Champaign-Urbana, which is where the U of Illinois campus is. It was a home game against Nebraska. And man, do the Huskers travel. We're 3-4 rows off the field. It was absolutely electric. One of the greatest nights of my life in sporting. I will tell you that. Nothing like Big 10 football on a Friday night. Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Maryland, Michigan State, Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Penn State, Purdue, Rutgers, Ohio State, Oregon, UCLA, USC, Washington, and Wisconsin form the Big 10. Conference USA, FIU, Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, Liberty, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, New Mexico State, Sam Houston, UTEP, Western Kentucky, Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, UAB, UTSA. The MAC, Akron, Ball State, Bowling Green, Buffalo, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Kent State, Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois, Ohio, Toledo, UMass, Western Michigan. The Mountain West, Air Force, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, Northern Illinois, San Jose State, UNLV, UTEP, and Wyoming. The Pac-12, of course, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, Oregon State, San Diego State, Texas State, Utah State, and Washington State. We have not seen a Power 5 conference be reduced the way the Pac-12 is reduced. And when your conference headquarters are in California and you can't get a TV deal, that's scary. They had Oregon, Washington, UCLA, USC, a revamped Utah program, and they couldn't find a good television deal. That's not on those schools. That's on the head of the conference at that time, and them wanting their own network. Because remember, they wanted Texas in the Pac-12, but Texas was working on the Longhorn Network, and for them to join the Pac-12, they would have had to have given up the Longhorn Network, and they said no thank you. It worked out for Texas, because they still got the Longhorn Network, and they're in the SEC. It worked out. Speaking of the SEC, Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, and Vanderbilt. The Sun Belt, Appalachian State, Arkansas State, Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, James Madison, Louisiana, Louisiana Monroe, Marshall, Old Dominion, South Alabama, Southern Miss, Troy. And the independents at this point, or in 2026, will be just Notre Dame and UConn. Now, of course, Notre Dame is Notre Dame. They are college football. UConn being an independent, it's like, you're not staying independent because you get a better TV deal. Notre Dame is independent because they don't want to give up their television deal with NBC Universal. That's why. And NBC wants Notre Dame because no matter where you were in the country in the 50s or whatever, on Saturday afternoons, you tuned in and saw Notre Dame playing in South Bend, Indiana, or wherever they were playing, Purdue, wherever. Whether your TV was black or white, you could notice the shine off those golden domes. Notre Dame is an institution in college football. UConn, sorry to say, is not. UConn is a blue blood in college basketball, but in college football, let's be completely honest, UConn does not matter at all. I shouldn't say that. They're just not one of those teams. So them being independent is insane. But ladies and gentlemen, that is a trip down memory lane. And college football realignment conferences used to actually be regional, and now it's about who's willing to pay for what team and what television market, and what can your school do for our conference, and we'll split this bag up with you. That's all it is. It's television money at this point. The reason that Oklahoma and Texas jumped ship and USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington jumped ship is because the Big Ten is in bed with Fox, and Fox was like, what can we do to get more eyes on the Big Ten? As if the Big Ten doesn't have eyes already. They got fucking Michigan, Ohio State. They have the game on Thanksgiving weekend. Oh, well, let's get USC, let's get UCLA, let's get Oregon, let's get Washington. Right? CBS, SEC football. I'm a CBS kid. That 3 o'clock CBS SEC game on a Saturday afternoon is no longer there. It's on ESPN. So ESPN's like, what can we do to facilitate getting more eyes on the SEC, as if there aren't enough eyes on the SEC? Now, you do get Big Ten games on CBS, and that's nothing to snark at. That's nothing to snark at. It's just not the same. I'm a 3 o'clock SEC football on CBS type of kid. That's who I am. So it's just very, very interesting. Your region really used to spell out the name of your conference, the ACC, Athletic Coast Conference, because it was the schools down the Atlantic coast. Duke, North Carolina, so-and-so. SEC, Southeastern Conference, schools that inhabit the southeastern region of the United States of America. The Midwest was either Big Ten country or Big 8 country. The Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12, schools on the Pacific Coast. Now you got 2 teams from the ACC there in the state of California. It makes no sense, but this is what television has done in sports. And while television is extremely important to sports, it shouldn't have done this. It shouldn't have done this. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's all the time I got for you guys today. A little longer episode, but this is something I really want to talk about. I'm going to end this like I end everything else. Believe in yourself first and foremost, because if you don't believe in yourself, of course, nobody else will believe in you. As always, my name is Derrick Lamon Jackson, and that's my time. Y'all have a good one. Peace out.